2019. This session is film screening, and our film today is Blue, supported by Greenpeace. Blue takes us on provocative journey into the ocean realm, featuring passionate advocates for ocean preservation. Blue brings us into their world where the story of our changing ocean is unfolding. At the first session before the screening, there's discussion session about Blue. And before this discussion session, I would like to invite Mr. Leo Simanjutak as Greenpeace Indonesia Country Director to give a welcoming speech. Over to you, please welcome Leo Simanjutak.
Thank you. Good afternoon, friends and colleagues. It is our utmost pleasure to have you here with us, and this is the first time Blue will be screened in Indonesia, and it is we're very happy that Greenpeace can welcome you to watch the movie. It is a very intriguing and very important movie to watch. I'd like to introduce, we'll have a very short but very substantive panel discussion before the screening. And I'd like to introduce to you distinguished panelists that will be in this stage in a second. First, Ibu Susi Hutomo, please. Ibu Susi Hutomo was a Greenpeace Southeast Asia chairperson until last year, and still member of the board of Greenpeace Southeast Asia. And with Sustainable Susi, she's been campaigning a lot for our sustainable future. And I'd like to welcome Saras Dewi, leading activist and philosopher from University of Indonesia. She's been very active in the campaign for against the reclamasi of Benoa Bay. Very active, and she's a leading philosopher in framing our campaign, our environmental campaign, linking it to local wisdoms that we should, of course, always promote. Next, Pak Yep Shanyo, Executive Director Greenpeace Southeast Asia, very famous with his intervention in COP Warsaw 5 years ago, leading Philippines negotiation in Conference of the Parties of Climate Change for years. And now I'm proudly saying that he's now leading Greenpeace Southeast Asia. And last but not least, very important guy here, Bli Topan, Executive Director of Walhi Bali. Of course, Walhi Bali is always at the forefront of environmental campaign, environmental struggle in Bali. Without further ado, I give the floor to Ibu Susi. Thank you.
Welcome everybody to our showing of the Blue. It's a kind of incredible film, and we'll just interview these three wonderful activists. They're all very strong activists, to give you a little bit of background about the environmental problems and perhaps challenges that we face in Indonesia and in Bali in particular. So perhaps I'll start with Yep. He's had his own session. I hope you might have been there yesterday. He had a main program yesterday. Yep has been selected as one of the astonishing Asians, 100 astonishing Asians. He's now the executive director of Greenpeace in Southeast Asia, but in his own right, he's a very strong climate activist as well. So maybe, Yep, can you tell us a little bit about this? As we all realize now how important the oceans are for the health of our environment. And what's Greenpeace's view, and why are we here today with this film from Greenpeace?
Thank you, Susie, and good afternoon to everybody. Oh, I would say quite very categorically and unequivocally, our oceans are in more trouble than ever before. And well, you would expect that from someone from Greenpeace to say how bad the situation is. But that is not just our job, but that is also reality. Our oceans, which make life possible on Earth, is very much in trouble. We talk about, of course, the pollution that's further damaging the ocean. You will see that in the film, so I won't tell you too much about the details. But plastics has become a crisis for our oceans. Not just plastics, for many decades now we've been dealing with overfishing. The FAO says that 70% of fish supplies of the world has been either overfished or depleted. So we're left with very few, and in regions like Southeast Asia, it's down to less than 10% left of fish supply or fish stocks. And the problem is it's not limited to fish, of course. It's also affecting real people, and a lot of people, billions of people that depend on the ocean. More than half of the world's population live within 100 kilometers of the coast. And at the rate we're destroying the ocean and damaging it in an irreversible way, it really is alarming. But I have to mention one more point, because I work within the climate activism sphere. Climate change is destroying the ocean in a very big way, both in terms of the warmer surface temperatures, but also with ocean acidification that's destroying our reefs and changing the ocean as we know it.
Thank you, Yap. Very alarming indeed, and here we are sitting in an air-conditioned environment. I know, one day hopefully we won't be, at least not using fossil fuel, definitely. And next perhaps, thank you very much for that very brief and yet alarming call about the condition of our ocean. And next I'd like to ask Sarah. Sarah Dewi is Balinese, and but she is a lecturer in philosophy at the University of Indonesia. So she's an intellectual and an activist, and she is launching a book in English, The Bay's Beloved. This is about the Benoa Bay at Pabli Topan, and every one of us in Bali is fighting to save. And I'd just like to have a small quote here from her book. It's called My Religion, but I'd just like to quote how she feels about the ocean. She says, "My religion was not created by God, nor by gods. It was sung by the dolphins, whose smiles taught me freedom." So perhaps, Saras, you can tell us a little bit more how you feel about the ocean and how you feel as a Balinese in the current situation.
Thank you, Susie, for that introduction, and Paleo. So I've been all around Indonesia doing my research with the university, capturing and documenting some of the rarest oral tradition it's now disappearing and almost disappearing in Indonesia, because they are closely related to how or the ocean. So in all of my travels with my campus, I've seen the vastness and the majestic of Indonesian oceans, but also sadly what's happening everywhere I go, the oceans are threatened. So it is, as a Balinese, maybe Topan will talk more later on about how we prolong this battle to protect our oceans, our seas, using and trying to understand more what water is, or what the ocean is, or what they meant to us as Balinese. So in Bali, for instance, in Bahasa Indonesia, in Indonesian language, this is how I can tell you how our interaction with oceans define our identity as a community, as a Balinese, an indigenous community. So such as the word in describing ocean in Bahasa Indonesia, we have segara, we have laut, we have samudra. Samudra is derived from Sanskrit. It's taken from the holy scripture of Veda. It's taken from Rig Veda actually, and it talks about samudra as this absolute power. So we are talking about how the oceans not only is providing us with life and providing us with a bountiful livelihood, but also it defines us. It is spiritually, it is what fills us, and we are constructing our culture and language based on our relationship with the ocean. So these are, of course, this is in a way it is a powerful tool to fight what's going on with the ocean.
Thank you. It's a fight that maybe some of you are familiar with, the Benoa Bay, where the highway to the airport, most of you will take it because you will be passing along that highway to the airport. It's one of the most beautiful highways, some people say, but that particular bay was originally a conservation area. And we'd like to ask Blitopan, how is the fight going to save this Benoa Bay, to help it remain as an identity of Bali as a conservation area? Kalau bahasa Indonesia, it's okay. Please go ahead. Kalau Inggris juga oke.
Saya mungkin jelasinnya pakai bahasa Indonesia saja, Pak, ya, agar lebih mudah saya menjelaskannya. Yang pertama, untuk Teluk Benoa sendiri, saat ini upaya-upaya untuk mereklamasi Teluk Benoa masih kita lihat ada potensi-potensinya. Seperti saat ini kita sedang mengadvokasi rancangan perda zonasi wilayah pesisir dan pulau-pulau kecil. Nah, kita temukan di draft peta tematiknya, di sana justru memasukkan rencana reklamasi di Teluk Benoa.
I see. Okay, berhenti dulu. So he's saying that the fight still goes on, and they have been part of looking at the regulations for the small islands of Indonesia, because Indonesia in the government, they have a particular department called attention called small islands. And within that plan is the plan for all the islands of Indonesia, and within that draft, baru draft within that draft is stated that Benoa will be reclaimed. So, bagaimana? How are we going to cope with this?
Seharusnya kan kalau kita berbicara, memang jika ada niatan, ada itikat baik dari pemerintah Provinsi Bali untuk benar-benar menghentikan rencana reklamasi Teluk Benoa, seharusnya rencana reklamasi Teluk Benoa tersebut dikeluarkan dari draft perda zonasi.
So he's saying that if the governor is serious about not reclaiming Benoa Bay, then it should have been excluded from that plan. Tapi apakah so is that from the central government, or is something that actually Balinese, those of us who live in Bali can do something about? Jadi maksudnya itu apakah haknya pusat atau seperti kita ini bisa mendorongnya?
Untuk saat ini wali Bali terus mengadvokasi, terus menyuarakan penolakan terhadap draft rencana zonasi wilayah pesisir dan pulau-pulau kecil yang memasukkan rencana reklamasi Teluk Benoa. Selain memasukkan rencana reklamasi Teluk Benoa, dalam draft perda tersebut juga memasukkan proyek-proyek yang kita duga ada indikasi pemutihan pelanggaran tata ruang.
Seperti Pak Risot,
seperti reklamasi untuk perluasan Bandara Ngurah Rai, lalu pelabuhan, dan ada tambang pasir laut
yang
juga.
sudah kita lihat. Yes, exactly. Yeah, so the draft in fact already includes the extension of the airport as well as the port of Benoa, and I think that is already, some of us have already seen some of that work. So I guess terima kasih banyak. So I think what we're realizing is in a country like Indonesia, even when those of us who live in Bali do not agree with this. There is still quite a struggle going on with Benoa in Bali itself. So thank you for that. And back again to you, Yep. What are some of Greenpeace's plans about Bali then? What are the kinds of challenges that we face here that Greenpeace will address as well?
Yes, thank you, Susie. Bali has a special place in the world, in the heart of Greenpeace. Why? Because we see in Bali such a dynamic community, and we are very happy to be working here and working with the community here in confronting all of these threats. We're talking about, of course, we stand together with the movement that's opposing the reclamation of Benoa Bay and everything that will destroy the beauty of Bali, not just physically but also in a very spiritual way. Bali is seen all over the world as a model for sustainability, and if we allow all of this misguided development to happen, then it will destroy Bali in a huge way. We're also, of course, focusing on the issue of plastic pollution here in Bali. You know, the Rainbow Warrior, the Greenpeace flagship, was here a few months ago, and what was very sobering for us when we were sailing within Indonesia, our ship captain was telling us that 30 years ago he was sailing in the same region and he didn't see any plastic in the water. Now we see plastic in the water every 500 feet, and more so when we were sailing into Bali. So this is such a terrible crisis that we see. This is a very big problem, and we want Bali also to be a model for confronting and addressing this problem. And so we're working with everyone here to stand up against plastic pollution, because we are all responsible for this, but we're also holding to account those who are at the producing side of all of this pollution. So that's the plan for us in Bali, and we very much look forward to working with all of our friends here.
Thank you. And Saras, because you've written this book, The Bay's Beloved, and that's about Benoa Bay. Could you tell us a little bit, what is the significance of Benoa and why are we fighting so hard to preserve Benoa Bay for Bali as an identity, you know?
Yeah, of course, it's also very important to you. You're also Balinese.
Yes, exactly.
Well, in my poetry book, I write about how my relation, and I think it will echo to all of Balinese, how they feel with nature, because we don't see nature as a property. We don't see our seas and ocean as an object, merely as objects, but we see them as subjects. So when the Bay's Beloved is seeing the Benoa Bay as a lover, that's how I write about Benoa Bay. And this is rooted in the Balinese view of looking into nature into two perspectives. There's this skala perspective, or what is seen that we can empirically experience, but there's this unseen or niskala that it is a sort of a force, energy that drives us, that creates balance, that we have to take care. So we are seeing Benoa Bay from these two faces, as, of course, as a very important ecosystem that we must fight. We must fight for the last part of mangroves in southern Bali. Of course, without them, then there will be no ecosystem. But we also fighting to protect Benoa Bay as this identity, as the symbol of the unseen or niskala.
Thank you very much. I urge you, if you come across this book, to get it. It's a very wonderful poetry about the relationship with Benoa Bay. And perhaps Blitopan, can you tell us how is perhaps the Bali governor? We just had a new governor actually. Is there been a change in the attitude towards Benoa Bay, or is it business as usual?
Kalau untuk dari Gubernur Bali yang saat ini terpilih, kami melihat, Wali Bali melihat bahwa Gubernur Bali belum melakukan langkah konkret untuk benar-benar mengakomodir penolakan rakyat Bali terhadap rencana reklamasi Teluk Benua.
So just as to translate that, up to today, the new governor has not made any concrete actions with regards to the reclamation, to stop the reclamation.
Bahkan kita melihat sendiri bahwa adanya indikasi dari pemerintah Provinsi Bali saat ini untuk mendorong upaya meloloskan rencana reklamasi Teluk Benua melalui Perda RZWP 3K Provinsi Bali.
Oh, yang tadi itu bukan, yang pulau kecil itu.
Ya, itu.
I see Perda. I see. So there are indications, in fact, that the government of Bali would like to allow the reclamation under the local regional regulations, because originally it was a presidential kind of decree, but that has already run out. Yeah, they're AMDAL. No, they hasn't. Yeah, they're working. Yeah, on that. Their AMDAL had just run out. So now I think the governor is pushing to have it. How do you say, be legalized on a regional basis, which is really a very troubling issue for Bali. Okay, on that note, it's really quite a sad note, but maybe I'd like to go back to Yap. What kind of role does activism play in this sort of, how do you say, in this sort of, shall I say, confrontation, but perhaps a peaceful one?
Yeah, both in the situation here in Bali when we're fighting for, as Sarah has described, a lover like Membawa, or fighting for the planet, for many of us who are in global activism. Activism should not be seen as radical. What is radical about defending your home? What is radical about defending a place you love? That should not deter people from embracing activism. And I think that's the message here. We need to all stand up for what is right, because the situation is dire. The planet is in serious trouble, and whether you live here in Bali, you live in other parts of the world, you can always make a difference, and one person can truly make a difference. I think I'm spoiling one line in the movie, but yeah, one person can truly make a difference, but that's not always literal. One person working with many others will make a much larger difference. So that's I think the message we want to send across, that in our everyday lives, there's something we can do to be part of this global movement.
Thank you. And perhaps Saras, I think we're running out of time. So, how do you, is there hope? Is there hopeful for you as a woman like me, a Balinese as well now? I do live in Bali for the past 6 years. What can we look forward to?
I think just hearing the news from Topan, from Walhi, I think I'm just tearing up to hear that really bad news. That it's been going on for 5 years, and we've given up our lives, of course, all of our energy to protect the bay. I'm just very disappointed to our government right now, who's not working their best at protecting this wilderness. And I don't think I can afford to be helpless or hopeless, because lives are at stake, and our nature is at stake. So we must continue.
Thank you. I think we've heard then from 3 panelists about the situation, and we hope you'll very soon enjoy the movie. Before that though, we'd love to open up the session for questions. If anybody would have any questions for the panelists before we go on to the movie. Anybody?
Yep.
Okay, great, please.
I'm really keen to know with the, no. I'm really keen to know, with the devastating effects on the Pacific Ocean of Fukushima, what kind of studies you've done in this region as far as how that has devastated the oceans around Indonesia.
Is that addressed to me? Sorry.
Yeah.
So you're asking how much research or work we've done to
Well, it just seems
assess
that there's a lot of
impacts
denial.
around Fukushima.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
So yeah, in the past several years since the Fukushima incident, Greenpeace has been doing research not just on radiation levels around Fukushima, but also how that is spreading across the Pacific. I'm not aware of any particular study in relation to its impacts on Indonesia, but we do have evidence that the radiation levels have spread throughout the Pacific, even as far as North America. So Indonesia is much closer to Fukushima than North America. Of course, also influenced by the Pacific currents. So yeah, we have exposed this problem in many ways, and also criticized the forces who are trying to cover up the problem from Fukushima, and Greenpeace is very worried that there is this very systematic cover up of the issue, and we will not stop until everybody knows the reality there.
Thank you. Yes, up there, please do, and then this side. Yeah.
I wondered what advice you could give to foreigners as to how we can help you with this issue you have around the airport.
Okay, with
Kalau untuk bantuan dari teman-teman internasional, seperti yang pernah dilakukan sebelum-sebelumnya, teman-teman menyuarakan penolakan terhadap rencana reklamasi Teluk Benua melalui mereka mensupport gerakan tolak reklamasi dengan membeli baju, atau dengan selalu memposting berita-berita tentang penolakan rencana reklamasi Teluk Benua. Menurut kami itu sudah sangat membantu sekali, karena jika misalnya jika kawan-kawan internasional tersebut ikut turun ke jalan, tentunya itu melanggar hukum dan menjadi celah bagi kekuasaan untuk menggembosi gerakan seperti itu.
Okay, maybe Saras, you want to sort of give a brief?
I'm just adding what Topan has mentioned, that we are a non-hierarchical movement
For Bali, right?
For Bali, supported by crowdfunding, and what of course every voice counts, and what has the international our international friends have done. They've spoken up about issues of Benua Bay in international conferences, and they've marched with us also in their countries. So I think just spreading the information and news about what we are doing and what's the case here happening, it's already, you are helping enormously for this movement. Thank you.
And maybe a suggestion or how we can, how do you say, tell all visitors better. I'm sure many people don't, visitors don't really know about this issue. So I'm just sort of getting aware that most people who come to Bali don't know, whereas we in Bali, we've been fighting for this for many years, for 5 years. Yeah. So any suggestions as well would be quite welcome. And there was somebody else over here, perhaps? No? Okay. Any?
Do you have a question?
Yes. Oops.
Yeah.
Where are you? Okay, go ahead.
There's a reclamation project in Singapore. Like they use a lot of trash
Yes.
to reclaim these big islands, and it seems to be quite sustainable. Like they said, there's a lot of coral growth, and they're inviting tourists there, and it's not smelly or anything like that. So I'm wondering how that project relates to Bali, and I mean, I know there are a lot of mangroves in Membawa Bay, so it may be a different issue.
Right. It's a different
But you also
issue,
have
yes.
like Sarangan, which is being reclaimed, and with the trash and stuff like that. So whether the reclamation project could be redirected, say, to another area like Sarangan, and be done in an environmentally sustainable way.
Maksudnya di Singapura itu kan mereklamasi dengan sampah dan dilakukan dengan sangat baik, tapi bukan mereka punya insinerator ya. Lalu bagaimana, apakah reklamasi kalau diinginkan bisa diarahkan ke tempat lain gitu? Apakah itu bisa menjadi suatu wacana untuk gubernur?
Kalau untuk di Bali sendiri, Bali sudah punya pengalaman buruk terhadap reklamasi. Tahun 96 Pulau Serangan juga direklamasi seluas kurang lebih 200 hektar kalau tidak salah, dan nilai intrinsik dari pantai di Serangan tersebut hilang akibat reklamasi di Pulau Serangan. Dan awalnya penangkaran penyu tersebut di Pulau Serangan, setelah terjadinya reklamasi, penangkaran penyunya hilang. Dan yang paling miris, masyarakat kehilangan hak kelola untuk tanahnya, karena sekarang kondisinya sebagian besar tanah yang telah direklamasi tersebut dikuasai oleh perusahaan.
Okay, so we have had a bad experience with reclamation. The Serangan Island, which some of you may know, it has been reclaimed 200 hectares in 1960. 15 tahun. Okay, 1996. And as a result, the beaches have been lost, and the local people have lost the rights to their land because the company that reclaimed this whole area then says all of it belongs to them. So then the local people have no more rights to their land. Yeah, maybe you can describe more.
I think, of course, when we think about development in Indonesia, for instance, we can understand why Singapore needs even a greater land because they don't have land. But Indonesia is we have huge, vast lands, and I think it's about time that we try to think and try to map our development infrastructure sustainably by following the curves and by following the ways of nature. That's, I think, in Indonesia. Maybe you can add.
Maybe just very quickly, from a standpoint of the immediate future of the planet with sea level rising, technically any coastal project that aims to reclaim the sea into land does not really make any sense.
And very expensive, probably. Economically doesn't.
And from a social justice perspective, as alluded to, most of these projects benefit only the corporate elite, and maybe in cahoots with governments in many parts of the world. So
many parts.
It's a big injustice if reclamation is seen as a solution to our problems rather than taking care and revitalizing the ecosystems that support us.
That's right. And probably there are many other areas in Bali that needs economic activity actually, instead of centralizing all the economic activity in the south of Bali as it's happening today. So that would be a better plan, right? To move some of the activity away from the Membawa Bay and into other parts. That was, I think, part of the discussion as well, why Membawa Bay is not such a great idea. And just a last question, maybe, was that?
Yeah. I am a philosopher like Sarah. I used to work for Greenpeace like you.
Great,
I've been
fantastic.
living in Membawa since July, and I've been working for an NGO called Road Foundation. And
Yes, Road Foundation.
Yeah, right. Concerns about
Waste.
environmental. Yeah, right. And when I came to Bali, I somehow doing all this work. Somehow I felt a bit disappointed and a bit. It made me hopeless. Actually, in Austria, there's much more awareness about this environmental concerns, And here in Bali, I think people are not aware of the problem. So I'm wondering if children will be facing this maybe in school, or is there a way that younger people, not just at university, will be confronted with these problems? It's quite late when they're brought up.
Thank you.
Kalau untuk edukasi terkait pentingnya untuk melestarikan lingkungan hidup sudah kami lakukan bersama For Bali 5 tahun yang lalu. Kami mengunjungi setiap banyak adat, komunitas-komunitas. Pentingnya kita menolak rencana reklamasi Teluk Benua atau melindungi Teluk Benua dari ancaman reklamasi karena banyak nilai-nilai yang ada di Teluk Benua, seperti Teluk Benua kawasan suci, lalu Teluk Benua kawasan rawan bencana, seperti itu. Dan kita menjelaskan juga dampak-dampaknya terhadap komunitas-komunitas dan terhadap banyak adat, seperti itu. Kalau kita katakan sendiri, kita belajar bersama masyarakat, karena seperti contohnya di Teluk Benua sendiri, masyarakat yang berdampingan dengan Teluk Benua lah yang mengerti tentang situasi geografis Teluk Benua, situasi kawasan suci di Teluk Benua, seperti itu.
Okay. So, community, maybe you can translate.
So, what Topan saying, I think we should be hopeful, and what we've done, we utilize this indigenous based structure that we call Banjar. Maybe you are familiar with Banjar. It is where all the individuals gathered in each of the village, each villages in Bali, they have this system of Banjar. So what they did, they circle all of this Banjar as a form to spread the information, as a form to spread the education about the importance of Benua Bay, conservation of Benua Bay. As I said earlier, we are trying to combat this problem using the tools, the social tools that existing now. We are trying to, of course, maintain the fight through empowering the social tools exist.
Yeah, thank you. So community-wise, we're strengthening. Okay, just one last thing, Jane. Just perhaps a last, because we have to go on to the movie that y'all wanting to watch.
This on? Okay, thank you. This is for all of you, Lara.
Can you make it a bit closer?
Topan, but was maybe mostly for because you mentioned that.
Can you make it closer?
You mentioned that Greenpeace has a plan to hold producers responsible, and I also mentioned that there should be nothing wrong with protecting what we love. And actually, our new governor announced on September 15th on International Coastal Cleanup Day that he has a peraturan gubernur pergub to, it's called Pelanggaran Plastik Sekali Pakai, and it's to limit the producers and the distributors of single-use plastic. And it seems to me like that could be a chance for Greenpeace to work together with the governor in a positive way as a civil group to help hold those, because it's going to be very difficult to implement that. It's going to be a real challenge. And also I wanted to know what are Greenpeace's present ways or methods to hold producers responsible.
Thank you, Jane. That's a really very important aspect of this conversation. And just to be very brief, we finished what we call a global brand audit. It's sort of a crime scene investigation on plastics that we did globally in 42 countries. We have released the list of corporations responsible for producing the plastics that's leaking into the oceans. Coca-Cola stands #1 in this list, and many other multinational brands. And we are using, of course, the weight of the Greenpeace as a global community to be able to leverage that power to change the way corporations see this issue and change the way they do their businesses. And we hope that it can resonate. And I absolutely agree. We'd be happy to work with local governments, not just in Bali, but in many parts of the world, to make this happen. Because it's at the local level where it will matter most, where you need to put in place policies and regulations so that these corporations could behave in a more responsible way.
Thank you, Yap. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you to our panelists. Before we go on to the movie, I'd just like to say that Greenpeace has just announced that it will have a program in Bali. And this program is to support alliances such as the one with WALHI and many others, as well as to really look at the particular problem of plastic waste in Bali. And because we're in Indonesia, and this is Greenpeace Indonesia actually, we are looking for all of you to help us in this effort. And so there will be someone at the front of the door. If you'd like to contribute to this effort, please do, because the problems are quite dire, even in Bali itself. And that's why Greenpeace has decided that it needed a base here. So thank you very much for such an enlightening conversation and for the wonderful questions. And I'll pass it back to the, is there somebody who will now take us to the movie? Thank you very much.